Hello, my name is Eric Macias, and the project that I chose for this final report was the De Young Museum in Golden Gate Parks in San Francisco, California. So, to be clear, I will be covering the reconstructed De Young Museum, as the original no longer exists, and the new one provided readily available information about the design, and I was able to get some crucial data points to conclude to go through the analysis that's required for this project. So the original was built in 1895, so the one on the left, and due to the Loma Prieta earthquake in 1989, the seismic resistance of the original building was put under scrutiny, and it was deemed vulnerable to future quakes due to the substantial damage that it received during the earthquake. Structural analysis methods have come a long way since the original was built, so it was deemed reasonable to reconstruct the building following new structural guidelines. In 1998, the museum's board of trustees agreed to rebuild the museum as a state-of-the-art facility, a full rebuild essentially. And in the year 2000, they began construction. And a little while after, in October 15th of 2005, the building was done. And shortly after, it was open to the public, showing all of its exhibits. And yeah, so the people in charge of basically delivering the project were left in the hands of certain architects, engineers, and contractors. So I've mentioned them here. The architects were Jacques S. Herzog and Pierre de Meuron Design Group. Most of the engineering, or really all of the engineering, was done by Rutherford and Checkin. They did the civil, structural, and geotechnical engineering for this project. And once all the designs were done, the project went through a project delivery method of design bid build. And the winner of the bid was Swinnerton and Walbrook Builders. So the building consists of a variety of materials, but the main structure is made out of structural steel and reinforced concrete. There's over 5,000 tons of structural steel and well over 4,000 tons of reinforced concrete throughout the entire structure. Other materials used are copper in the cladding that surrounds the building. It's a one-of-a-kind copper cladding that's embossed well over 1 million times. It's a very extravagant siding. And the reason why copper was chosen for this was because copper ages, it oxidizes as it ages, and it turns a greenish hue. The reason for using copper is because it will blend into the park, basically to follow the aesthetic of what's going on there as the copper ages. One of the materials that they used the most as well was glass. There's a lot of natural lighting for the expositions and the exhibits. They wanted natural lighting to basically allow a unique experience when taking the art. And so there's also over 100 tons or 150 tons of glass throughout the entire building and windows alone. So pretty impressive as far as the numbers consisted in material usage. So let's continue with the structural analysis. The risk category for the job, for the site that we picked, or that I picked, could fall anywhere between 1 and 2. The reason for this is that the building does not see maximum occupancy very often, and therefore isn't considered a major threat to human life in the case of an earthquake. That being said, it is a museum and can get very busy when important exhibitions are in. And for that reason, I will be giving it a risk category of 2 and an importance factor of 1. I did not go any higher solely because it doesn't see large volumes day to day and can see long periods of being closed during its off season. So risk category 2, importance factor of 1. So using that information, I plugged in the location of the museum onto seismicmaps.org to get the short period design acceleration, and the 1 second acceleration response. This was used to find the dividing line between short and long period TS. The first structural period of vibration was compared to TS. The first structural period was based off of the 144 foot height of the observation tower on the east wing of the building. And so comparing the dividing line and the first period of vibration, we come to the fact that we're going to be using a long period analysis for the base year coefficient, using the numbers from the previous table and the derived vibration period. We just needed R, so I looked into the designs of the original build of, not the original, but the reconstructed building, and I found some case studies for the building, and both of these resources pointed to a response modification factor of 5 using steel ordinary concentrically braced frames. This number is a little bit larger than what we covered in class, but since this was acquired using original resources, I went with their numbers for the analysis. Plugging in all the values, I got a base shear coefficient of 19% or 0.019. So that just about wraps up the structural analysis or seismic analysis for this project. And just want to continue with some other pretty interesting things that I found while researching it. It is considered a design masterpiece amongst many of the world's best architects. The custom copper exterior has, it's the largest of its kind, and arguably can be considered one of a kind with all of the embossing and the engravings that are done in the copper itself. Some key things that weren't necessarily taken into too much consideration in the analysis that were already included in like the response modification coefficient. But some of the key defining characteristics are like this watchtower. It's a 9-story spiral watchtower that acts as an educational facility and allows guests to, go to the top and see, get incredible views of San Francisco and the surrounding Bay Area. Another big one that they were pretty proud of amongst being able to complete was this cantilever here. It's an aesthetic thing, and it acts as like a sunshade for guests coming into the building. But it is the amount of engineering that went into making this work and not mess with the harmonics and like the rest of the building was pretty extensive, and it's also very neat to look at. Continuing with the non-structural part of the report. 3 things that were less than good about the winter quarter. It was actually kind of hard to come up with. I actually had a pretty good quarter for starters, but I did have some things go wrong. Nothing's perfect. To start, the transmission on my truck broke 3 days before winter quarter started, so I had to kind of run around like a chicken with its head cut off to find a vehicle to drive back down from Sonoma County to SLO to start school. So that was kind of a pain. Secondly, I didn't see my friends or family for another 10 weeks. It's just the case of being in school. So it's one thing. And lastly, I'm running out of time at Cal Poly. So, knowing that another 10 weeks are up and I'm getting closer to graduation is exciting, but also sad because I feel like I just got here. So those are some things that were less than good about winter quarter. A lot of positive things happened. To start, I got an internship opportunity with Nova Group out of Napa, California for the summer of 2022. So that's exciting. I started going to the gym again, and I've been able to achieve some of the goals that I had set for these last 10 weeks. And so I'm excited to continue and to make time for it as the quarters go on. And lastly, I think one of the biggest things was that I made a bunch of new friends this quarter. And it was nice because, with the last couple of years of being online and, the first quarter back, it was just hard to be social and, kind of have like a friend group to sit down and do a bunch of work with. So it's nice to be able to find some people that I work well with and, have more in common than not. So pretty cool. arguably the biggest lesson that I got out of the pandemic was that it's very important to like what you're working towards. Um, I started the pandemic as an electrical engineering major and grew very unmotivated after being stuck behind a computer all day, programming and circuit analysis, just all I would do for the first couple months of the pandemic. And I realized that my life wasn't going to stray too much from that if I continued in EE. So I got a taste of what my life could look like as an EE, and I didn't want to do programming or tons of programming and just computer work day in day out. So in the winter of 2021, I made the decision to go into civil engineering, something that I liked, and the decision was mostly made from the fact that I like to build and I like concrete. Those things go hand in hand with civil engineering, so it was an easy call for me to make.
And thankfully, because of the pandemic, I learned the lesson and made the decision to do something that I liked, and I haven't looked back since. And lastly, when I think about what I want to do after the pandemic,
Realistically, what I look forward to the most is just like going back to normalcy. Like, I don't want to think about the pandemic anymore. Like, I want to be able to travel or do whatever and not think about COVID. So, yeah, that is my final presentation. Hope you enjoyed. Email me if you have questions about anything. Thank you.